speaker is Ms. Usha Nair. Hi Usha, welcome. She is a Senior Vice President and Head Distribution at DSP Investment Managers. And Usha will explain what all the fuss is about alpha, beta and smart beta. Welcome Usha.
Thank you. Let me start by appreciating this organizing committee, Mr. Tejas, Harish and everyone. We have been attending a lot of such conferences ever since COVID is over and the reopening of the economy happened. I must say it is one of the best and the largest gathering that has happened. Unimaginable to see such a, I can't reach the back of the hall. That kind of crowd is there and there are many who are waiting outside. So amazing effort and brilliant organization. So on that note, let me start. The two speakers before me, Nilesh Bhai in his evergreen style and probably not so dominating what Mr. Keshavan from SBI covered, largely covers what I am going to speak for the next 10 or 12 minutes. The topic today given is this, India Road to Global Dominance. But I knew I'm a speaker after a couple of speakers before me. And I also knew that a lot of concepts on macro, India growth, how our industry will grow, etc. will be largely covered. And I thought, let me speak a little more about MFD dominance in the next decade. That's what I thought I would cover, which would encompass the two speakers, ideas from the two speakers that spoke before me. This slide, I'm not going to spend much time. You had already seen it, Nilesh Bhai showed it. And we know as an economy, we dominated the world. And now we are, making a comeback into the economy, in the space of economy, 3.2 trillion, so on and so forth, right? What characterizes global dominance? And each of this has a relevance to you as an MFD, to us as a manufacturer when we talk. Any globally dominant economy, any superpower, does have financial merit, does have military strength, and had demographic dividend. Be it Japan, be it US, most of the economies did have demographic dividend, which today is something that is spoken about India. And if you see it there, you can see that India's demographic dividend is starting to pay off from 2018 onwards. China had it a little ahead and many other economies. So a couple of things that make us. Now, we are part of the financial economy. We aspire, Nilesh Bhai's presentation had the change in AUMs, the growth of the financial markets. We will do 10x, 20x, etc. in the next couple of years. And we all know that, right? And we are part of that space where we do see that we will make a lot of inroads in wealth creation, so on and so forth. But when you say that you are a globally dominant player, India as a global dominant economy, India's aspiration is for a global dominance. But dominance shifts, be it an economy, be it a business, or be it in people. That is a message or a learning that I wish to share with each one of you. That's shift of dominance that happens. If you paid attention to the speaker before me, Mr. Keshavan, everything that he spoke was about establishing dominance in investing realm. He spoke about macro, quantitative, fundamental, forensic, ESG. Each of them, technology, each of them is to establish a dominance in what you do. Why do we have a lot of conversations on defense, manufacturing in India, so on and so forth? That is again to bring back dominance. And the question here, if you see the slide, India, can it be the next superpower? China's ascent to the superpower status or the trial. Make America great again, which is all a fear factor that did US lose its superpower status. Am I losing that? Is someone coming from behind and taking it over? Do I, as an MFD, do I, as a manufacturer, do I need to be worried about losing my dominance? If I need to become dominant, what is it that I should not be blindsided, and what are the changes that I should make to my business? right? So one aspect of that change which can make us dominant, which can give us a dominant status, is what I will speak in the next 4 or 5 slides. So as I mentioned, it's the road to MFD dominance. One company which all of us are familiar with, which is in the FMCG space, which has remained dominant, and interesting, it is taking on head-on the world leaders in FMCG business. There are so many world leaders in the dairy business. Nestle, not to name anybody else. Amul has still stood the test of time in product innovation, in marketing, in its dealership engagement, and being the preferred brand forever, right? One of the interesting points I want to speak about, which was also part of the topic, alpha, beta, and smart beta, is the most spoken about health issue is consumption of butter, cholesterol, that it leads to heart attacks, and the awareness has got created a lot about it. And here is Amul, which comes with 2 products, which is Neutralite and Light. This is a very, very small, tiny example of a company like Amul, which is a household name, but how it retains its dominant status. The thought process of a company who is a dominant player in its business to constantly innovate and not be blindsided. They have products which they know can be not best for the health conscious. What did they do about it? Come out with a product, and a large portion, if you look at their numbers today, the financials, a large portion of their sales do come through 2 of these products. Do we have such Amul Light, Neutralite examples that we need to be aware in our business? Okay? So the debate constantly in our business is about alpha and beta. If you see the evolution of our investing journey, the 1960s were all about active returns, how much of alpha you generated. Slowly the 70s, this could be a little bit of US example, but we are not far behind. There was a conversation with the beginning of Vanguard and the John Bogle, beta, the market investing. Beta and alpha became a conversation. Somewhere in the 80s and the 90s, we spoke about value or growth, market beta and alpha. And now, look at the sector in between. So much of conversation on momentum, value, growth, low quality, Nifty 200 minus quality, Nifty 200 plus momentum, all of that comes in. Why are we talking about that? And if you recollect, Mr. Keshavan did give a reference to a couple of them. One of the most important aspects when we talk of dominance is, there is a trigger. Why does the dominance shift? Economy, history, revolutions if you study, whatever you look at, a dominant player, why does he give away his space to someone else, and why does a new leader, new economy, new business emerge as a dominant player? It is the slot for number 1, number 2, number 3. That's what we are largely talking from a dominance perspective. Why do dominance shifts in our business? Why does this conversation around smart beta? Why do we talk about quantitative analysis? Why is ESG becoming important? Why is forensic accounting becoming so important? There are triggers for each one of this. One of the most important reasons, a study done by an institute in the US called Dalbar, they will publish their 2022 results in a couple of weeks or months, shows an average investor in equity over 30 years does not even beat the basic index number. S&P 500, one of the toughest indices to beat, has generated in 30 years dollar return, 10% plus, which is not a bad return at all. An average equity investor, and this number of inflation is before this last year of high inflation that we have not seen in the past 40 years, 2.5 or 2.4% of US inflation. But an average equity investor in 30 years makes about 7.13% return. So you underperform the broad market index. And hence, this leads, consistently seeing this, talking about this, reading about this, makes you wonder as an investor, is there genuinely alpha in my life? Am I paying and getting the alpha that I am aspiring to get? See the title. There is a trigger why dominance changes. Then he starts thinking, should I look for some other options? And that will then lead collectively to consider certain other opportunities. Now, my career in mutual funds is about 20 years. Initially, index investing was an AMC question, nothing more than that. And Harish here and many of you whom I would have interacted in those days would know, for most of us, index investing was just a part of our academic interest, a conversation that you did. Yes, there is index is there, index funds is there. That is the kind of conversation. But today, if you see this is an AMFI publication, the projected share of index funds or passive assets in the overall AUM of mutual funds is projected to be upwards of 37%. So if you recollect the slide Nilesh Bhai showed, where he talks about the shift in the economic size, the AUM shift that we will all see, which we are all sure we'll see, this will become another dominant factor. I'm re-highlighting the word that is part of the conference, a dominant part of our business, which will be part of the MFD business, which will be part of the industry of mutual fund manufacturers and investment analysts of everybody. The dominance will start shifting. The trend is slowly there. So much as I may like to believe that as an MFD, as a manufacturer, my job is to generate alpha. Yes, it is. But there is something that is developing beyond what I like. So my personal choices may be X or Y, but beyond that, there is something that is happening for which, to retain my dominant position, I need to be aware of it. This is a trigger why dominance shift as one example. I'm not going to spend too much of time. It's an economic slide. You already saw that when Mr. Keshavan spoke, when Nilesh Bhai spoke and so on, and I'm sure many managers who spoke to you. We come up with these explanations that, value tends to outperform, growth and quality does not perform, so on and so forth. And that cycle keeps shifting, right? Why did value do well in the last 1 year? Why didn't growth and quality not do well, etc.? So all of these are reasons which are not within your control. If you recollect, in his presentation, he made a very nice word. When he gave that example of airline pilots, however, big their experiences, they do the checklist so that we avoid biases in times of crisis. Most important, all of this matters most is when you are in times of crisis. So let's quickly move. This is another example of how factor cyclicality happens. And there is a trigger always why new themes emerge. So all of this, both these slides that I'm referring to, is to say that the dominance was alpha investing. The dominance is slowly shifting to a trigger-based method, which is over a period of time when the alpha generation reduces, the interest of an investor, a customer, a manufacturer, a fund manager, an MFD, an advisor will be to ensure that the client objectives are met and other processes, other products will make a comeback into, or a invention will happen. All of this, I'm not going to go through the slide, but I just want you to spend some attention on the top part, which is all Nifty indices. So this slide is not to give the data, not to talk about who has done well. It is to just bring a perspective that look at the gamut of scope of smart beta strategies that have come about in our own market. How many of us are aware that these indices even exist? All of them, after the third column, which is fourth column actually, Nifty Next 50 TRI, the whole category is smart beta strategy indices. Now, do we have funds? Yes, DSP has some funds. Some other fund house would have some funds launched around it. And each one of them talks about investment principles managed into strategies which eliminate the bias from the segment of making decisions. And it is important. You may always think that that's for a fund manager to check. No, biases are there with me as an individual investor. Bias is there with you as an MFD as well, because we are humans. That's why the word human biases exist, right? Okay. Now, just a small example. We have 3 smart beta funds. One is the DSP, and the simplest of them, equal weight Nifty. Now, a lot of interest happens in that. It's a fairly large-sized smart beta idea in the Western world. More than $100 billion assets are managed. Okay, now if I show you here, this fund was launched in 2017, 2018 and 2019, it did not have the best of performance. 2020, 21, 22, it gave outlier performance compared to the category average of large cap funds, a regular plan, okay? Now the idea is not to share the return, but the idea is to say why it happened. So smart beta strategies are something which has a rule. What does this fund do? The top 10 stocks in Nifty has about 58% weight. The bottom stocks have 19.6% weight. But in a Nifty equal weight strategy, the top 10 will have 20% weight, the bottom 10 will also have 20% weight. Last 3 years, it is the bottom weight stocks of the Nifty that largely delivered returns, and it was not the top 10. Now that answer or that explanation is something I will give after the event is over. But logically, a Nifty index is there which has got weightages. Again a word, optimization, sizing of the bets. How much in each stock? And then there is a strategy which says consider equal weight. Now is that the strategy for all points of time? No, definitely not. But does it find merit in your portfolio for some points of time? Yes. But most importantly, there is an avoidance of bias that is there in that strategy, because I don't like Coal India, I don't like ITC, I only like HDFC Bank. Reasons valid, there would be there. But will Coal India perform? Yes, it did perform. Will NTPC perform? Some point of time it may perform. What happens to my portfolio when that performs? So to avoid that bias, which is don't like PSU companies, don't like, low ROE companies, whatever, falana, dimkana, there will be hundreds of reasons. A strategy like this helps an advisor, helps a manufacturer bring out a different concept. Last point before I come to the end. Again, most of us love to predict what happens to the market. I'm just quickly going to refer. This is a study done by FIAI, Financial Intermediaries Association of India, in 2015. And this is a study AMC did with BCG, published in 2019. In 2015, these guys predicted that industry AUM will be close to 30 lakh crores by 2020. And we have largely been there. In 2022 December when we closed, we are more than 40 lakh crores. So that is fairly correct. But one aspect that got missed out was the segments of distribution. Why am I speaking about this? The reason I'm speaking about this is when we ignore what is happening, that is where you're taken by surprise. The three components of distribution segment which was considered for the study in 2015 was MFDs, banks and national distributors. If you read that study, there is no mention of digital distributors. There is no mention of online platforms. I'm talking about 2015, a study done predicting what will happen to the industry in terms of composition and size in 2020. And in 2019, you can see the data, there is MFDs existing, a large portion of national distributors, banks continue, but almost 13% is coming from the digital advent, which was forgotten. In 4 years, how dominance shifts. Are they still a dominant player? No, they are not. But did an organization, did manufacturers, did you and me, did any consulting firm predict this kind of a shift in the way we do business? That was completely unaware of. So the moral of the story is, you do not know what can happen. We know we will grow. India will become a 5 trillion economy, 10 trillion economy. MFDs will become a very dominant player. But if you need to maintain the dominant status, for us as a manufacturer to maintain our dominance, we need to be constantly evaluating, which is what you heard from all the speakers. As an MFD, don't say no to ideas. All of them need an evaluation. I like active, I like passive, I don't like smart beta. I just took like a small tip of the iceberg of one development That is happening in the industry, which I wanted to bring it to your attention. The best smart beta manager is Ekalavya. Ending with a story, he kept a stone image of Dronacharya and learned to do investing, while learned archery, while Arjuna learned it from the man himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Usha. Please remain on stage. May I invite Arun Kumare and Mr. Marula Siddhaya from Davangere branch? Yes.